A Journey Through American History. Chapter 1. The Dawn of a New World. The story of America begins long before the arrival of European explorers. For thousands of years, the land was inhabited by a rich tapestry of indigenous cultures, each with its own unique traditions, governance structures, and ways of life. These Native American societies had developed complex systems of agriculture, trade, and diplomacy, laying the foundations for a vibrant and diverse continent. The arrival of Christopher Columbus in 1492 marked the beginning of a new era. Though Columbus was not the first European to reach the Americas, his voyages opened the floodgates for exploration and colonization. The Spanish, driven by the search for gold and new territories, established a significant presence in the Caribbean, Mexico, and South America. The impact on indigenous populations was profound and often devastating, as diseases, warfare, and enslavement took a heavy toll. In the early 16th century, other European powers, including the French, English, and Dutch, began to explore and establish colonies in North America. The English settlement at Jamestown in 1607 marked the beginning of a continuous English presence on the continent. This early colony faced numerous hardships, including conflicts with local Powhatan tribes, disease, and food shortages. Despite these challenges, Jamestown survived, setting a precedent for future English colonies. The Pilgrims' arrival on the Mayflower in 1620 and the establishment of Plymouth Colony added a new dimension to the colonial landscape. Unlike the largely profit-driven ventures of Jamestown, Plymouth was founded by a group of religious separatists seeking freedom from persecution. Their Mayflower Compact laid the groundwork for self-governance and community cooperation, principles that would echo throughout American history. The colonial period was characterized by a diverse and often contentious mix of cultures and interests. English, French, Spanish, and Dutch settlers, along with African slaves and indigenous peoples, interacted in complex ways. The fur trade, driven by European demand for beaver pelts, fostered alliances and conflicts among various Native American tribes and European powers. These interactions were not only economic, but also cultural, leading to a blending of traditions and practices. Religious diversity was another hallmark of the colonial era. The Puritans of New England, the Quakers of Pennsylvania, and the Catholics of Maryland each sought to establish communities based on their distinct religious beliefs. This quest for religious freedom, however, often led to intolerance and conflict within and between colonies. The Salem witch trials of 1692 are a stark reminder of the dangers of religious extremism and the persecution of those deemed different. By the mid-18th century, the 13 colonies had developed unique identities and governance structures. The British policy of salutary neglect allowed the colonies a degree of autonomy, fostering a spirit of independence and self-reliance. Economic activities such as agriculture, trade, and manufacturing flourished, contributing to a growing sense of American identity. However, the relationship between the colonies and the British Crown was not without tension. Issues such as taxation, representation, and territorial expansion sowed the seeds of discontent. The French and Indian War, 1754 to 1763, part of the larger 7 Years' War, further strained colonial British relations. The war's outcome, which expanded British territorial claims in North America, also led to increased British debt and a desire to exert greater control over the colonies. The stage was set for a dramatic transformation. As colonial resistance to British policies grew, the idea of independence began to take hold. The next chapter in America's story would be one of revolution and the birth of a new nation, driven by the ideals of liberty and self-governance. The dawn of a new world was not just a time of exploration and settlement, but the beginning of a journey toward a unique experiment in democracy that would have far-reaching implications for the entire world. Chapter 2. The Colonial Tapestry. The early American colonies were a patchwork of diverse cultures, economies, and social structures. From the northernmost reaches of New England to the southern colonies, each region developed its own identity, shaped by geography, climate, resources, and the backgrounds of its settlers. New England colonies, such as Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire, were heavily influenced by Puritan religious beliefs. These colonies prioritized community and religious conformity, with church membership often intertwined with civic duties. The harsh climate and rocky soil limited agricultural pursuits, leading New Englanders to turn to fishing, shipbuilding, and trade. Town meetings and a strong sense of local governance fostered democratic practices that would influence the broader American political landscape. The middle colonies, including New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, were characterized by their diversity and economic versatility. This region attracted a wide array of settlers, including Dutch, Swedish, German, and Irish immigrants. The fertile soil and temperate climate supported a robust agricultural economy, with wheat and other grains becoming significant exports. The middle colonies were also notable for their religious tolerance and pluralism, with Quakers, Catholics, Lutherans, and Jews among the many religious groups that coexisted relatively peacefully. The southern colonies, such as Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, developed economies that were heavily reliant on agriculture and slavery. The warm climate and fertile land were ideal for cash crops like tobacco, rice, and indigo. Plantations became the economic and social centers of the South, with a stark division between wealthy landowners and the enslaved Africans who worked their fields. This reliance on slave labor would have profound and lasting implications for American society and politics. Colonial life was marked by a blend of European traditions and New World adaptations. Settlers brought with them customs, laws, and institutions from their homelands, but had to adapt these to the realities of life in America. The legal systems of the colonies, for example, combined English common law with local statutes and practices. Educational institutions began to emerge, with Harvard College, founded in 1636, being the first institution of higher learning in America. Trade and commerce played a vital role in the development of the colonies. The Atlantic Ocean was a conduit for goods, people, and ideas, linking the American colonies to Europe, Africa, and the Caribbean. This transatlantic trade network, known as the Triangular Trade, involved the exchange of raw materials, manufactured goods, and enslaved Africans. The economic prosperity of the colonies was inextricably tied to this global network, which also brought cultural exchanges and conflicts. Colonial society was also marked by a degree of fluidity and opportunity, especially compared to Europe. While social hierarchies existed, the availability of land and the demand for labor allowed for greater mobility and the possibility of upward advancement. This sense of possibility and the promise of a better life attracted many immigrants to the colonies. However, the colonies were not free from conflict and hardship. Relations with Native American tribes were often fraught with tension, leading to violent clashes and wars. The Pequot War 1636 to 1637 and King Philip's War 1675-1676 were brutal conflicts that resulted in significant loss of life and disruption for both Native Americans and colonists. These conflicts reflected the broader struggle for control and dominance over land and resources. Women in the colonies faced a rigid set of societal expectations, but played crucial roles in their communities. They managed households, contributed to the family economy, and participated in community and religious life. Some women, such as Anne Hutchinson and Mary Dyer, challenged the established norms and faced persecution for their beliefs and actions. The colonial period laid the foundations for the United States' future development. The diverse and dynamic nature of colonial life fostered a sense of independence and self-reliance. The challenges and conflicts of this era also highlighted the need for unity and cooperation among the colonies. As tensions with Britain increased, these experiences would galvanize the colonists' resolve to seek independence and self-determination. In summary, the colonial tapestry of America was rich and varied, reflecting the complexities and contradictions of its early development. From the religious fervor of New England to the agricultural wealth of the South, each region contributed to the emerging American identity. The seeds of revolution were sown in this period, as the colonies began to see themselves not just as extensions of European powers, but as distinct entities with their own destinies. The next chapter would see these colonies come together to fight for their independence and create a new nation, founded on the principles of liberty and justice. Chapter 3: The Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution was a period of profound economic, technological, and social change that transformed societies around the world. Beginning in the late 18th century in Britain and spreading to other parts of Europe and North America, the Industrial Revolution marked the transition from agrarian economies to industrialized ones. This chapter explores the origins, key innovations, and societal impacts of this transformative era. The Industrial Revolution emerged in Britain during the late 18th century, spurred by a combination of factors. The agricultural revolution that preceded it led to increased food production and population growth, freeing up labor for industrial work. Britain's abundant natural resources, including coal and iron ore, provided the necessary raw materials for industrialization. Technological advancements, such as the invention of the steam engine by James Watt in 1769, revolutionized manufacturing processes and transportation. The steam engine powered machinery in factories and facilitated the development of steam-powered locomotives and ships, revolutionizing travel and trade. The Industrial Revolution was characterized by a wave of innovations and inventions that transformed production methods and daily life. In addition to the steam engine, other significant innovations included the spinning jenny, water frame, and power loom, which revolutionized textile production and led to the rise of the textile industry. The mechanization of agriculture, led by inventions such as the seed drill and mechanical reaper, increased agricultural productivity and freed up labor for industrial work. Meanwhile, developments in transportation, such as the steam locomotive and the steamship, facilitated the movement of goods and people over long distances, connecting distant regions and markets. The Industrial Revolution brought about profound changes in economic structures and systems. The shift from manual labor to mechanized production to increased efficiency and output, driving economic growth and urbanization. Factory-based production replaced cottage industries, leading to the concentration of workers in urban areas and the rise of industrial cities. The growth of industry and trade fueled the expansion of markets and the development of capitalism. Entrepreneurs and industrialists amassed wealth and power, while workers faced harsh working conditions, long hours, and low wages. The rise of industrial capitalism also led to the emergence of new social classes and inequalities. The Industrial Revolution had far-reaching social consequences, reshaping family structures, gender roles, and living conditions. Rural populations migrated to cities in search of employment, leading to overcrowded urban slums and poor living conditions. The factory system introduced a new division of labor, with men, women, and children working long hours in factories and mills. The role of women in the workforce expanded during the Industrial Revolution, particularly in textile mills and domestic service. However, women faced discrimination and lower wages compared to male workers. Children were also exploited as cheap labor, working in factories and mines under dangerous conditions. The rapid growth of industrial cities during the Industrial Revolution necessitated significant investments in infrastructure. Urban areas expanded rapidly, leading to the construction of railways, bridges, and canals to facilitate the movement of goods and people. Sanitation and public health became pressing concerns, leading to improvements in sewage systems and the development of public health initiatives. The Industrial Revolution had a profound impact on culture and society, influencing art, literature, and social movements. Romanticism emerged as a response to the social and environmental changes brought about by industrialization, emphasizing nature, emotion, and individualism. The rise of industrial capitalism also sparked social and political movements aimed at addressing the inequalities and injustices of the new economic order. The labor movement, led by trade unions and reformers, fought for better working conditions, fair wages, and workers' rights. Socialist and communist ideologies gained traction among workers disillusioned with capitalism's excesses. The Industrial Revolution had a global impact, transforming economies and societies around the world. European powers, particularly Britain, exported industrial technologies and goods to their colonies, reshaping global trade networks and economies. The spread of industrialization fueled imperialism and colonial expansion, as European powers sought to exploit resources and markets in Africa, Asia, and the Americas. The Industrial Revolution was a transformative period in human history, ushering in an era of unprecedented economic growth, technological innovation, and social change. Its legacy continues to shape the modern world, influencing economic systems, social structures, and cultural norms. As we move forward, it is essential to reflect on the successes and failures of the Industrial Revolution and consider its implications for the future of humanity. Chapter 4: The Age of Exploration. The Age of Exploration, also known as the Age of Discovery, was a period of European exploration and expansion from the 15th to the 17th centuries. It was driven by a desire for wealth, power, and knowledge, leading to significant voyages of discovery and the establishment of global trade networks. This chapter explores the motivations, key explorers, and consequences of the Age of Exploration. The Age of Exploration was fueled by a combination of economic, political, and religious motivations. European nations sought new trade routes to Asia to bypass the Ottoman Empire's control over land routes and access valuable spices, silks, and other luxury goods. The desire for wealth and prestige drove explorers and investors to seek new markets and sources of revenue. Political rivalries between European powers also played a significant role in exploration. Nations competed to establish colonies and claim territory in the New World, seeking to expand their empires and increase their influence on the world stage. Religious factors, including the desire to spread Christianity and combat Islamic influence, motivated some explorers and monarchs. The Age of Exploration produced numerous notable explorers and voyages that reshaped the world map and expanded European influence. Christopher Columbus's voyages in 1492, funded by Spain, led to the European discovery of the Americas and opened the door to further exploration and colonization. Portuguese explorers, such as Vasco da Gama and Bartolomeu Dias, pioneered new sea routes to Asia, circumnavigated the African continent, and established trading outposts along the coasts of Africa and Asia. Ferdinand Magellan's expedition, funded by Spain, was the first to circumnavigate the globe, proving that the Earth was round and significantly expanding European knowledge of world geography. The Age of Exploration had profound consequences for the world, reshaping global trade, demographics, and cultures. European exploration and colonization led to the exchange of goods, ideas, and people between the Eastern and Western hemispheres, a process known as the Columbian Exchange. The Columbian Exchange facilitated the spread of crops, animals, and diseases between the Americas, Europe, Africa, and Asia. It had both positive and negative effects, introducing new foods like potatoes and maize to Europe, while also causing devastating epidemics among indigenous populations. European colonization of the Americas resulted in the displacement and exploitation of indigenous peoples, as well as the establishment of plantation economies based on enslaved labor from Africa. The transatlantic slave trade, fueled by European demand for labor in the New World, led to the forced migration of millions of Africans and had lasting effects on the demographics and cultures of the Americas. The Age of Exploration left a lasting legacy that continues to shape the modern world. It laid the foundation for global trade networks and established European dominance over much of the world. The exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures between continents had far-reaching consequences, influencing everything from cuisine and language to technology and politics. However, the legacy of exploration is also marked by exploitation, violence, and the marginalization of indigenous peoples. European colonization led to the destruction of indigenous societies, the imposition of foreign cultures and religions, and the exploitation of natural resources for the benefit of colonial powers. The Age of Exploration was a transformative period in human history, marked by remarkable feats of navigation, discovery, and conquest. It reshaped the world map, expanded European influence, and laid the groundwork for the modern globalized world. However, it also had profound and often devastating consequences for indigenous peoples and cultures, highlighting the complex and often contentious legacy of exploration and colonization. Chapter 5: The Renaissance. The Renaissance, meaning rebirth in French, was a period of cultural, artistic, and intellectual flourishing that spanned roughly from the 14th to the 17th centuries in Europe. It marked a significant departure from the medieval period and laid the groundwork for the modern world. This chapter explores the key features, influential figures, and lasting impact of the Renaissance. The Renaissance was characterized by a renewed interest in classical antiquity, humanism, and individualism. It saw a revival of art, literature, philosophy, and science, as well as advancements in education, politics, and technology. Humanists, inspired by the ancient Greeks and Romans, emphasized the value of human potential, reason, and critical thinking. Artists and intellectuals embraced realism, perspective, and experimentation, leading to groundbreaking achievements in painting, sculpture, architecture, and literature. The Renaissance also witnessed significant developments in trade, commerce, and banking, fueling economic growth and urbanization. The Renaissance produced numerous influential figures whose contributions shaped the course of history. Leonardo da Vinci, a polymath known for his mastery of art, science, and engineering, epitomized the Renaissance ideal of the Renaissance man. His iconic works, such as the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper, continue to inspire awe and admiration. Michelangelo Buonarroti, another towering figure of the Renaissance, was celebrated for his masterpieces in painting, sculpture, and architecture. His works, including the Statue of David and the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, exemplify the beauty and grandeur of Renaissance art. Other notable figures of the Renaissance include Raphael, whose paintings epitomize harmony and balance, and Niccolò Machiavelli, whose political treatise, The Prince, remains influential in the study of political theory and governance. The Renaissance was a period of significant scientific and technological innovation. The invention of the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg in the 15th century revolutionized communication and education, making books more accessible and affordable. Advancements in astronomy, mathematics, and physics laid the groundwork for the scientific revolution. Figures like Nicolaus Copernicus, Galileo Galilei, and Johannes Kepler challenged traditional views of the universe, leading to the emergence of a heliocentric model of the solar system and the development of modern science. The Renaissance was characterized by a spirit of inquiry, exploration, and discovery. The invention of the printing press facilitated the dissemination of ideas and knowledge, allowing for the rapid spread of Renaissance ideals and achievements across Europe. The establishment of universities and academies provided centers of learning and intellectual exchange, fostering collaboration among scholars, artists, and thinkers. Humanist scholars rediscovered and translated ancient texts, making classical knowledge accessible to a wider audience and inspiring new avenues of thought and creativity. The Renaissance had a profound and lasting impact on European society, culture, and civilization. It laid the foundation for the modern world by promoting the values of humanism, individualism, and rational inquiry. The Renaissance also contributed to the rise of secularism, the decline of feudalism, and the emergence of nation-states. Artistically, the Renaissance produced some of the most iconic works of art and literature in history, setting new standards of beauty, creativity, and expression. Its architectural innovations, such as the Dome of Florence Cathedral and the St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, continue to inspire awe and admiration. The Renaissance was a transformative period in European history, marked by a resurgence of learning, creativity, and innovation. It ushered in a new era of exploration, discovery, and enlightenment, shaping the course of human civilization for centuries to come. As we reflect on the legacy of the Renaissance, we are reminded of the enduring power of human creativity and the boundless potential of the human spirit. Chapter 6: The Enlightenment. The Enlightenment, also known as the Age of Reason, was a philosophical and intellectual movement that swept across Europe in the 17th and 18th centuries. It championed reason, science, and individualism, the primary sources of knowledge and authority, challenging traditional beliefs and institutions. This chapter explores the key ideas, influential thinkers, and lasting impact of the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment was characterized by a commitment to rationalism, empiricism, and skepticism. It rejected superstition, dogma, and authority in favor of reason, evidence, and critical inquiry. Enlightenment thinkers believed in the power of human reason to understand and improve the world, advocating for progress, tolerance, and freedom. Central to Enlightenment thought was the belief in natural rights and the social contract. Philosophers like John Locke argued that individuals possessed inherent rights to life, liberty, and property, and that governments derive their authority from the consent of the governed. This idea laid the groundwork for modern conceptions of democracy and human rights. The Enlightenment produced a diverse array of influential thinkers whose ideas shaped the course of Western thought and culture. French philosophers like René Descartes and Voltaire championed reason, science, and freedom of thought. Descartes' method of doubt laid the foundation for modern philosophy, while Voltaire's advocacy for tolerance and freedom of speech inspired the principles of the French Revolution. English philosopher John Locke's writings on natural rights and the social contract influenced the American Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. Scottish philosopher David Hume challenged religious and metaphysical beliefs, advocating for a naturalistic understanding of the world based on observation and experience. The Enlightenment was also a period of significant scientific and technological progress. The scientific revolution laid the groundwork for Enlightenment thought by promoting empirical observation, experimentation, and the scientific method. Figures like Isaac Newton, whose laws of motion and universal gravitation revolutionized physics, exemplified the spirit of scientific inquiry. Technological innovations, such as the steam engine and the printing press, facilitated the spread of knowledge and ideas, fostering communication and collaboration among Enlightenment thinkers. The Encyclopédie, edited by Denis Diderot and Jean-Léron d'Alembert, served as a comprehensive compendium of Enlightenment thought, promoting education and intellectual freedom. The Enlightenment had profound social and political implications, challenging established authorities and institutions. Enlightenment ideas fueled movements for political reform, religious tolerance, and the abolition of slavery. Figures like Cesare Beccaria advocated for judicial reform and the abolition of torture, while Mary Wollstonecraft argued for women's rights and gender equality. The American and French revolutions were deeply influenced by Enlightenment thought, with revolutionaries invoking principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity in their struggle against monarchy and tyranny. The Declaration of Independence and the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen embodied Enlightenment ideals of democracy, individual rights, and popular sovereignty. The Enlightenment had a lasting impact on Western civilization, shaping the development of modern democracy, science, and human rights. Its emphasis on reason, liberty, and progress laid the groundwork for the principles of modernity and the secularization of society. The Enlightenment also inspired subsequent movements for social and political reform, including feminism, abolitionism, and humanism. The Enlightenment was a transformative period in human history, marked by a commitment to reason, science, and freedom. Its ideas continue to resonate in the modern world, inspiring efforts to promote democracy, human rights, and social justice. As we reflect on the legacy of the Enlightenment, we are reminded of the enduring power of human intellect and the pursuit of truth and liberty. Chapter 7: The Age of Industrialization. The Age of Industrialization, spanning from the late 18th to the early 20th centuries, was a period of unprecedented economic, technological, and social transformation. It marked the transition from agrarian economies to industrialized ones, revolutionizing production methods, transportation, and daily life. This chapter explores the key developments, societal impacts, and challenges of the Age of Industrialization. Industrialization emerged in Britain during the late 18th century and spread rapidly to other parts of Europe and North America. It was fueled by a combination of factors, including technological advancements, access to natural resources, and changes in social and economic structures. The invention of the steam engine, powered by coal, revolutionized manufacturing processes and transportation, leading to the mechanization of industry. The Age of Industrialization saw significant advancements in technology, infrastructure, and production methods. Factories and mills replaced cottage industries, leading to the mass production of goods on a scale never before seen. Innovations such as the spinning jenny, power loom, and cotton gin revolutionized textile production, driving economic growth and urbanization. The development of steam-powered locomotives and steamships transformed transportation, connecting distant regions and facilitating the movement of goods and people. The construction of railways, canals, and bridges further accelerated industrialization, opening up new markets and trade routes. Industrialization had profound social and economic consequences, reshaping the structure of society and the lives of millions of people. Urbanization accelerated as rural populations migrated to cities in search of employment in factories and mills. The growth of industrial cities led to overcrowding, poor living conditions, and social unrest. The factory system introduced a new division of labor, with men, women, and children working long hours in dangerous conditions for low wages. Labor unions and reform movements emerged in response to exploitation and inequality, advocating for better working conditions, fair wages, and workers' rights. Industrialization fueled globalization, transforming economies and societies around the world. European powers, particularly Britain, expanded their empires through imperialism, seeking sources of raw materials and markets for manufactured goods. Colonies served as sources of cheap labor and raw materials, enabling industrialized nations to maintain their economic dominance. The transatlantic slave trade, which had fueled the growth of colonial economies in the Americas, was abolished in the 19th century, but was replaced by systems of indentured labor and coerced migration from Asia and Africa. Industrialization had significant environmental consequences, including pollution, deforestation, and resource depletion. The burning of coal and the use of steam engines led to air and water pollution, contributing to respiratory diseases and environmental degradation. Deforestation and urbanization destroyed natural habitats and ecosystems, leading to loss of biodiversity and soil erosion. Despite its negative consequences, industrialization also fostered technological innovation and progress. Advances in science, engineering, and medicine improved living standards and quality of life for many people. The development of new technologies, such as the telegraph, telephone, and electricity, revolutionized communication and transportation, shrinking distances and connecting people across continents. The age of industrialization was a period of profound change and transformation, shaping the modern world in ways that continue to influence society, economy, and environment. Its legacy is complex, marked by both progress and exploitation, innovation and inequality. As we navigate the challenges of the 21st century, it is essential to reflect on the lessons of the past and strive for a more equitable and sustainable future. Chapter 8. The Rise of the United States as a Global Power. The rise of the United States as a global power is a remarkable story of transformation from a fledgling nation to a dominant force on the world stage. Spanning the late 19th and early 20th centuries, this period was marked by rapid industrialization, military expansion, and strategic diplomacy. This chapter explores the key events, policies, and figures that propelled the United States into its role as a global power. The end of the American frontier, symbolized by the closing of the frontier in 1890, as declared by the Census Bureau, marked a pivotal shift in American history. The settlement of the West and the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad facilitated the movement of goods and people, opening new markets and driving economic growth. Industrialization continued to accelerate, with the rise of major industries such as steel, oil, and manufacturing. Figures like John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie amassed great fortunes and built vast business empires, contributing to America's economic might. This era, often referred to as the Gilded Age, was characterized by both unprecedented wealth and stark social inequalities. The Spanish-American War of 1898 was a turning point in American foreign policy, signaling the country's emergence as a global power. The war was fueled by American support for Cuban independence and sensationalist journalism, known as yellow journalism. The explosion of the USS Maine in Havana Harbor galvanized public support for the war against Spain. The United States' victory resulted in the Treaty of Paris, which granted the U.S. control over former Spanish territories, including Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. This marked the beginning of American imperial expansion and a more assertive role in international affairs. President Theodore Roosevelt played a crucial role in expanding America's global influence through his assertive foreign policy, often summarized by his motto, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." Roosevelt's big stick policy emphasized the use of military power to achieve American goals and protect its interests abroad. One of Roosevelt's significant achievements was the construction of the Panama Canal, which facilitated naval and commercial shipping between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Roosevelt also played a key role mediating the Russo-Japanese War, earning him the Nobel Peace Prize and enhancing America's reputation as a global peacemaker. World War I marked America's entry into global conflicts on a significant scale. Initially neutral, the United States entered the war in 1917, driven by factors such as unrestricted submarine warfare by Germany and the Zimmermann Telegram, which revealed a German proposal for a military alliance with Mexico against the U.S. President Woodrow Wilson's leadership during and after the war was instrumental in shaping the post-war world order. His 14 points outlined a vision for peace and international cooperation, culminating in the creation of the League of Nations. Although the U.S. Senate ultimately rejected joining the League, Wilson's efforts marked a significant step towards internationalism. The 1920s, often referred to as the Roaring Twenties, was a decade of economic prosperity, cultural flourishing, and technological innovation in the United States. The automobile, radio, and cinema became integral parts of American life, and jazz music symbolized the era's cultural dynamism. However, the stock market crash of 1929 and the ensuing Great Depression had devastating effects on the American economy and society. Unemployment soared, banks failed, and widespread poverty challenged the nation's resilience. The Great Depression also had significant global repercussions, influencing economic policies and political movements worldwide. President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal was a series of programs and reforms aimed at addressing the economic crisis of the Great Depression. Initiatives such as the Social Security Act, the Works Progress Administration (WPA), and the Civilian Conservation Corps (CCC) provided relief, recovery, and reform to millions of Americans. The New Deal expanded the role of the federal government in the economy and society, laying the foundation for the modern welfare state. Roosevelt's leadership during this period helped stabilize the economy and restore public confidence, setting the stage for America's emergence as a global superpower during World War II. World War II was a defining moment in American history, solidifying the United States' status as a global superpower. The U.S. played a crucial role in the Allied victory, contributing significant military and industrial resources. The war effort spurred economic growth, technological innovation, and social change, including greater opportunities for women and minorities. The post-war order was shaped by American leadership, the creation of international institutions, such as the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund (IMF), and the World Bank, the Marshall Plan, which provided economic aid to rebuild Europe, exemplified America's commitment to global stability and economic recovery. The Cold War era was characterized by ideological, political, and military rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. The U.S. pursued a policy of containment to prevent the spread of communism, leading to involvement in conflicts such as the Korean War and the Vietnam War. The Cold War also saw significant developments in nuclear weapons and space exploration, with the US and the Soviet Union competing for technological supremacy. The eventual collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 marked the end of the Cold War and solidified the United States' position as the world's preeminent superpower. The rise of the United States as a global power was a complex and multifaceted process, marked by economic expansion, military conflict, and strategic diplomacy. From the closing of the frontier to the end of the Cold War, America transformed into a dominant force on the world stage. This period of history highlights the interplay between domestic developments and international affairs, shaping the modern world order and America's role within it. Chapter 9: The Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Movement was a pivotal period in American history, spanning the 1950s and 1960s, during which African Americans and other marginalized groups fought for equal rights and an end to racial segregation and discrimination. This chapter delves into the origins, key events, influential figures, and lasting impact of the Civil Rights Movement. The roots of the Civil Rights Movement can be traced back to the post-Civil War Reconstruction era, when African Americans made significant political and social gains. However, the end of Reconstruction led to the establishment of Jim Crow laws in the South, institutionalizing racial segregation and disenfranchisement. The early 20th century saw the rise of organizations like the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People (NAACP), which worked through legal channels to challenge segregation and discrimination. The Great Migration, during which millions of African Americans moved from the rural South to urban centers in the North and West, also set the stage for the movement by fostering new social and political networks. Key events: Brown v. Board of Education 1954. The Supreme Court's landmark decision in Brown v. Board of Education declared that racial segregation in public schools was unconstitutional, overturning the separate and equal doctrine established by Plessy v. Ferguson. This ruling galvanized the civil rights movement by highlighting the injustices of segregation and providing a legal foundation for further challenges to racial discrimination. The Montgomery bus boycott, 1955-1956. The Montgomery bus boycott began in December 1955 after Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to give up her seat to a white passenger on a segregated bus in Montgomery, Alabama, led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The boycott lasted for over a year, leading to a Supreme Court ruling that segregation on public buses was unconstitutional. This successful nonviolent protest brought national attention to the civil rights movement and established King as a prominent leader. The Little Rock 91957. In 1957, 9 African American students, known as the Little Rock Nine, attempted to integrate Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas. Despite facing violent resistance and being blocked by the Arkansas National Guard on the orders of Governor Orville Forbes, the students eventually entered the school under the protection of federal troops sent by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. This event underscored the federal government's role in enforcing desegregation and the fierce resistance to integration in the South. The March on Washington 1963. The March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, held on August 28, 1963, was one of the largest civil rights rallies in American history. It brought together over 250,000 people at Washington, D.C., to advocate for civil and economic rights for African Americans. The event is best known for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, which eloquently articulated the aspirations of the civil rights movement and called for an end to racism and inequality. Civil Rights Act of 1964 and Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a landmark piece of legislation that outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. It ended segregation in public places and banned employment discrimination. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 followed, prohibiting racial discrimination in voting and effectively enfranchising African Americans in the South. These laws represented significant victories for the civil rights movement, codifying any of its goals into federal law. Influential figures. The civil rights movement was shaped by numerous influential figures whose leadership, courage, and advocacy were instrumental in advancing the cause of equality. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. emerged as the most prominent leader of the civil rights movement. His commitment to nonviolence and civil disobedience, inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, was central to the movement's strategy. King's eloquent speeches and writings, including his letter from Birmingham jail and I Have a Dream speech, articulated the moral and ethical imperatives of the struggle for civil rights. Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks, often referred to as the mother of the civil rights movement, played a crucial role in igniting the Montgomery bus boycott. Her act of defiance and subsequent arrest galvanized the African American community and demonstrated the power of peaceful protest and collective action. Malcolm X. Malcolm X was a prominent figure in the movement who advocated for black empowerment, self-defense, and racial pride. As a member of the Nation of Islam, and later as the founder of the Organization of Afro-American Unity, Malcolm X's views often contrasted with the nonviolent approach of other leaders. However, his emphasis on black autonomy and human rights resonated with many African Americans. Other notable leaders included Medgar Evers, a civil rights activist assassinated in 1963, Fannie Lou Hamer, a voting rights activist and co-founder of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, and John Lewis, a leader of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee (SNCC) and later of a long-serving U.S. congressman. The civil rights movement profoundly transformed American society, dismantling institutionalized segregation and discrimination. It paved the way for subsequent social justice movements, including the women's rights movement, LGBTQ rights movement, and the Black Lives Matter movement. The movement's emphasis on non-violent protest and civil disobedience has continued to inspire activists worldwide. Despite these achievements, the struggle for racial equality and justice continues. Issues such as systemic racism, economic disparities, and police violence remain pressing concerns, underscoring the ongoing relevance of the civil rights movement's legacy. The civil rights movement was a defining era in American history, marked by courageous individuals and collective action that fundamentally challenged and changed the nation's social and legal landscape. Its successes and ongoing challenges remind us of the importance of vigilance, activism, and the enduring fight for equality and justice. Chapter 10: The Cold War Era. The Cold War era, spanning from the end of World War II in 1945 to the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, was a period of intense geopolitical rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. This chapter explores the origins, key events, ideological conflicts, and lasting impacts of the Cold War. The Cold War emerged from the ideological and political differences between the capitalist United States and the Communist Soviet Union. The alliance between these two superpowers during World War II was born out of necessity to defeat Nazi Germany, but quickly dissolved as mutual distrust and conflicting visions for the post-war world became apparent. At the heart of the Cold War was a profound ideological clash between capitalism and communism. The United States, representing liberal democracy and a market-based economy, championed individual freedoms, private property, and free enterprise. In contrast, the Soviet Union, under the leadership of the Communist Party, promoted a centrally planned economy, state ownership of property, and a one-party political system. Key events and crises: the Iron Curtain and containment. In a speech in 1946, Winston Churchill famously declared that an Iron Curtain had descended across Europe, separating the Soviet-controlled East from the democratic West. The United States adopted a policy of containment to prevent the spread of communism, articulated in the Truman Doctrine, which promised support to countries resisting communist influence. The Marshall Plan. The Marshall Plan, initiated in 1947, was an American initiative to provide economic aid to rebuild Western European economies devastated by World War II. By fostering economic stability and growth, the plan aimed to prevent the spread of communism and strengthen alliances with Western European nations. The Berlin Blockade and Airlift. In 1948, the Soviet Union blockaded West Berlin in an attempt to force the Allies out of the city. In response, the United States and its allies launched the Berlin Airlift, supplying West Berlin with food, fuel, and other necessities by air. The successful airlift lasted for almost a year, demonstrating Western resolve and technological capability. The Korean War. The Korean War 1950–1953 was the first major military conflict of the Cold War, pitting North Korea, supported by China, and the Soviet Union against South Korea, supported by the United States and its allies. The war ended in an armistice, with Korea remaining divided along the 38th parallel, symbolizing the broader Cold War divide. The Cuban Missile Crisis. The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. When American reconnaissance discovered Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba, President John F. Kennedy imposed a naval blockade and demanded their removal. After tense negotiations, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev agreed to dismantle the missiles in exchange for a U.S. pledge not to invade Cuba and the secret removal of American missiles from Turkey. The Vietnam War. The Vietnam War 1955–1975 was a protracted conflict between the Communist forces of North Vietnam, supported by the Soviet Union and China, and South Vietnam, backed by the United States. The war became deeply unpopular in the U.S., leading to widespread protests and ultimately the withdrawal of American forces. North Vietnam's victory in 1975 resulted in the reunification of Vietnam under communist rule. Arms race and space race. Nuclear arms race. The Cold War was marked by a relentless arms race, with both superpowers amassing vast arsenals of nuclear weapons. The concept of mutually assured destruction had emerged, deterring direct conflict between the US and the Soviet Union, but contributing to a pervasive sense of global insecurity. Space race. The Cold War rivalry extended into space, with the Soviet Union achieving the first significant milestones, including launching the first artificial satellite, Sputnik, in 1957, and sending the first human, Yuri Gagarin, into space in 1961. The United States responded with accelerated efforts, culminating in the Apollo 11 moon landing in 1969, when Neil Armstrong became the first human to set foot on the moon. Détente and the end of the Cold War. Détente. In the 1970s, a period of détente, or easing of tensions, emerged as both superpowers sought to reduce the risk of nuclear conflict. Key agreements, such as the Strategic Arms Limitation Talks, SALT, and the Helsinki Accords, aimed to curb the arms race and improve diplomatic relations. The role of leaders. Leaders like Mikhail Gorbachev, Ronald Reagan, and George H.W. Bush played crucial roles in ending the Cold War. Gorbachev's policies of glasnost openness and perestroika restructuring to reform the Soviet system and reduce Cold War tensions. Reagan's strong anti-communist stance, combined with diplomatic engagement, helped set the stage for meaningful negotiations. The fall of the Berlin Wall. The fall of the Berlin Wall 1989 symbolized the collapse of communist regimes in Eastern Europe and the waning power of the Soviet Union. This event was followed by the reunification of Germany and the dissolution of the Warsaw Pact. The collapse of the Soviet Union. In 1991, the Soviet Union itself dissolved, ending the Cold War. The former Soviet republics gained independence, and Russia emerged as the primary successor state. The Cold War had a profound impact on global politics, economics, and society. It shaped international alliances, military strategies, and geopolitical boundaries. The legacy of the Cold War continues to influence contemporary international relations and conflicts. The Cold War era was a time of intense rivalry, marked by ideological conflicts, military standoffs, and diplomatic maneuvers. While it posed significant dangers, including the threat of nuclear war, it also spurred technological advancements and fostered a complex web of international relations. The end of the Cold War reshaped the global order, paving the way for a new era of political and economic dynamics. Chapter 11. The Technological Revolution and the Information Age. The late 20th and early 21st centuries witnessed a profound transformation driven by rapid technological advancements, ushering in what is often called the technological revolution and the information age. This chapter explores the key developments, innovations, societal impacts, and ongoing challenges associated with this era. The technological revolution began in the mid-20th century, building on earlier industrial advances and scientific discoveries. Key milestones included the development of the transistor in 1947, which paved the way for modern electronics, and the launch of the first artificial satellite, Sputnik, in 1957, which sparked the space race and advancements in telecommunications. Key developments. The digital revolution. The digital revolution, marked by the shift from analog to digital technology, transformed virtually every aspect of life. The development of the microprocessor in the 1970s enabled the creation of personal computers, making computing power accessible to individuals and businesses. Companies like Apple, IBM, and Microsoft played pivotal roles in popularizing personal computing. The Internet and the World Wide Web. The Internet, originally developed as a military communications network ARPANET in the late 1960s, evolved into a global information system. The introduction of the World Wide Web in 1989 by Tim Berners-Lee revolutionized how information was shared and accessed, leading to the proliferation of websites, email, and online services. Mobile technology. The advent of mobile technology in the late 20th century transformed communication and connectivity. The development of cellular networks and the launch of smartphones, notably the iPhone in 2007, revolutionized how people accessed information, communicated, and conducted business. Mobile apps and services became integral to daily life. Artificial intelligence and automation. Advancements in artificial intelligence (AI) and automation have reshaped industries and labor markets. AI technologies, including machine learning and natural language processing, have enabled significant progress in areas such as healthcare, finance, and transportation. Automation, driven by robotics and AI, has increased efficiency, but also raised concerns about job displacement. Societal impacts. Communication and social media. The information age has transformed communication, with social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram reshaping how people interact, share information, and engage with the world. While these platforms have democratized communication and fostered global connectivity, they have also raised issues related to privacy, misinformation, and digital addiction. Education and information access. The widespread availability of digital technology has revolutionized education, making learning resources more accessible and enabling new forms of online education. The Internet has democratized access to information, empowering individuals with knowledge and fostering a more informed society. However, the digital divide remains a significant challenge, with disparities in access to technology and the Internet affecting marginalized communities. Economic transformation. The technological revolution has driven economic growth and innovation, creating new industries and job opportunities. The rise of tech giants like Google, Amazon, and Facebook has reshaped global markets and economies. However, this transformation has also led to economic disparities, with wealth increasingly concentrated in the hands of a few tech entrepreneurs and companies. Healthcare advancements. Technological advancements have revolutionized healthcare, improving diagnostics, treatment, and patient care. Innovations such as telemedicine, electronic health records, and precision medicine have enhanced the efficiency and effectiveness of healthcare delivery. Biotechnology breakthroughs, including CRISPR gene editing, hold the promise of curing genetic diseases and advancing medical research. Ongoing challenges. Privacy and security. The information age has raised significant concerns about privacy and security. The collection and use of personal data by companies and governments have sparked debates about surveillance, data protection, and individual rights. Cybersecurity threats, including hacking, data breaches, and cyber warfare, pose ongoing risks to individuals, organizations, and nations. Ethical and societal implications. The rapid pace of technological change has outpaced the development of ethical and regulatory frameworks. Issues such as AI ethics, data privacy, and the impact of automation on employment require careful consideration and balanced policies. Ensuring that technological advancements benefit society as a whole, rather than exacerbating inequalities, is a critical challenge. Environmental impact. The production and disposal of electronic devices contributes to environmental pollution and e-waste. The energy consumption of data centers and digital infrastructure also raises concerns about the environmental footprint of the information age. Sustainable practices and green technologies are essential to mitigate these impacts. The information age continues to evolve, driven by ongoing innovations and emerging technologies. The development of 5G networks, quantum computing, and the Internet of Things (IoT) promises to further transform industries and daily life. The integration of AI into more aspects of society will present both opportunities and challenges. The technological revolution and the information age have fundamentally transformed the world, reshaping how we live, work, and interact. While these advancements have brought significant benefits, they also pose complex challenges that require thoughtful and inclusive solutions. As we navigate this rapidly changing landscape, it is essential to balance innovation with ethical considerations, ensuring that technology serves the greater good and contributes to a more equitable and sustainable future. Chapter 12. The Environmental Movement and the Quest for Sustainability. The environmental movement has been one of the most significant social and political movements of the late 20th and early 21st centuries. This chapter explores the origins, key events, influential figures, and ongoing challenges associated with the movement, as well as the broader quest for sustainability in the face of global environmental crises. The roots of the environmental movement can be traced back to the 19th century with the conservation efforts of figures like John Muir, who advocated for the preservation of natural spaces and played a key role in the establishment of national parks in the United States. However, the modern environmental movement emerged in the mid-20th century, driven by growing awareness of environmental degradation and pollution. Key developments: the publication of Silent Spring. In 1962, Rachel Carson's book Silent Spring brought widespread attention to the dangers of pesticides, particularly DDT, and their harmful effects on wildlife and human health. Carson's work is often credited with launching the modern environmental movement, highlighting the need for regulatory oversight and the protection of natural ecosystems. Earth Day. The first Earth Day, celebrated on April 22, 1970, marked a turning point in environmental awareness and activism. Organized by Senator Gaylord Nelson, Earth Day brought millions of people together in rallies and events across the United States to advocate for environmental protection. The success of Earth Day led to the establishment of environmental organizations and increased political pressure for regulatory action. The creation of the EPA. In response to growing environmental concerns, the United States government established the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, in 1970. The EPA was tasked with enforcing regulations to protect air and water quality, control pollution, and manage hazardous waste. This marked a significant step in institutionalizing environmental protection efforts at the federal level. Major environmental issues: air and water pollution. Throughout the 20th century, industrialization and urbanization led to severe air and water pollution. Incidents like the Cuyahoga River catching fire in 1969 due to industrial waste dumping highlighted the urgent need for regulatory action. The Clean Air Act 1970 and the Clean Water Act 1972 were landmark pieces of legislation reducing pollution and improving environmental quality. Climate change. Climate change has become the defining environmental issue of the 21st century. The burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, and other human activities have increased greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere, leading to global warming and associated impacts such as rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and loss of biodiversity. International efforts to address climate change include the Kyoto Protocol 1997 and the Paris Agreement 2015, which aim to reduce carbon emissions and limit global temperature rise. Biodiversity loss. Human activities have led to significant loss of biodiversity, with species extinction rates accelerating due to habitat destruction, pollution, overexploitation, and climate change. Conservation efforts, including the establishment of protected areas and wildlife reserves, aim to preserve endangered species and their habitats. Organizations like the World Wildlife Fund, WWF, and the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, play critical roles in global conservation efforts. Environmental justice. The environmental movement has increasingly recognized the importance of environmental justice, addressing the disproportionate impacts of environmental degradation on marginalized communities. Environmental justice advocates work to ensure that all people, regardless of race, income, or ethnicity, have access to a clean and healthy environment. Key issues include the placement of hazardous waste sites, access to clean water, and the health impacts of pollution on low-income and minority communities. Influential figures. Rachel Carson. Rachel Carson's work as a marine biologist and author of Silent Spring was instrumental in raising awareness about the environmental impacts of pesticides. Her advocacy led to policy changes and inspired a generation of environmental activists. John Muir. John Muir, a naturalist and founder of the Sierra Club, was a key figure in the early conservation movement. His efforts to protect wilderness areas and promote the establishment of national parks laid the groundwork for modern environmentalism. Wangari Maathai. Wangari Maathai, a Kenyan environmentalist and founder of the Green Belt movement, worked to promote tree planting, environmental conservation, and women's rights. She was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2004 for her contributions to sustainable development, democracy, and peace. Ongoing challenges and the quest for sustainability. Sustainable development. The concept of sustainable development, popularized by the 1987 Brundtland Report, emphasizes meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Sustainable development integrates economic, social, and environmental goals, aiming to achieve a balance that promotes long-term well-being. Renewable energy. Transitioning to renewable energy sources, such as solar, wind, and hydropower, is essential to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and mitigating climate change. Advances in technology and decreasing costs have made renewable energy more viable, but challenges remain in scaling up infrastructure and integrating these sources into existing energy systems. Conservation and restoration. Efforts to conserve and restore natural ecosystems are critical to preserving biodiversity and maintaining ecosystem services. Initiatives such as reforestation, habitat restoration, and the protection of marine environments aim to reverse the damage caused by human activities and promote ecological resilience. Policy and advocacy. Effective environmental policy and advocacy are crucial for driving systemic change. International agreements, national legislation, and grassroots activism play key roles in shaping environmental protection efforts. Advocacy organizations and movements, such as Greenpeace, Extinction Rebellion, and Fridays for Future, mobilize public support and hold governments and corporations accountable for their environmental impact. The environmental movement continues to evolve, responding to emerging challenges and opportunities. Technological innovations, such as electric vehicles, sustainable agriculture practices, and circular economy models, offer potential solutions to environmental problems. However, achieving a sustainable future requires collective action, political will, and a commitment to equity and justice. The environmental movement has profoundly impacted how we understand and address the relationship between human activities and the natural world. While significant progress has been made, ongoing efforts are needed to tackle the complex and interconnected environmental issues of our time. The quest for sustainability as a holistic approach that integrates environmental, economic, and social dimensions, ensuring a healthy planet for current and future generations. Chapter 13. The Rise of Globalization and its Impact. Globalization. The process of increasing interconnectedness and interdependence among countries has been one of the most influential phenomena of the late 20th and early 21st centuries. This chapter explores the origins, key developments, economic and cultural impacts, and ongoing debates surrounding globalization. Globalization is not a new phenomenon. Its roots can be traced back to ancient trade routes, such as the Silk Road, which connected East Asia and the Mediterranean. However, modern globalization accelerated rapidly in the latter half of the 20th century due to several key factors. Technological advancements. Advances in technology, particularly in transportation and communication, have been critical drivers of globalization. The advent of jet air travel, container shipping, and, most importantly, The internet and digital communication technologies has made it easier and faster to move goods, services, information, and people across borders. Economic policies and trade agreements. Economic policies promoting free trade and the reduction of tariffs and trade barriers have facilitated the growth of international trade. Key agreements, such as the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade GATT, later succeeded by the World Trade Organization (WTO), along with regional agreements like the North American Free Trade Agreement (NAFTA) and the European Union (EU) Single Market, have promoted global economic integration. Multinational corporations. The rise of multinational corporations (MNCs) has played a significant role in globalization. These corporations operate in multiple countries, establishing global supply chains and production networks that enhance economic interdependence. Companies like Apple, Microsoft, and Toyota exemplify how businesses have become global entities. Key developments. The information age. The information age, characterized by the digital revolution and the widespread use of the Internet, has facilitated the rapid exchange of information and ideas across the globe. This has not only transformed economies, but also influenced cultural and social interactions. The fall of the Soviet Union. The end of the Cold War and the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 marked a significant turning point for globalization. The integration of former Eastern Bloc countries into the global economy and the adoption of market-oriented policies in China and India further accelerated globalization. The rise of emerging markets. Emerging markets, particularly in Asia, have become significant players in the global economy. The rapid economic growth of countries like China, India, Brazil, and South Korea has shifted the global economic balance and created new opportunities and challenges for global trade and investment. Economic impacts. Trade and investment. Globalization has led to a significant increase in international trade and investment. Countries now exchange goods, services, and capital on an unprecedented scale, fostering economic growth and development. Foreign direct investment (FDI) has become a crucial component of economic globalization, enabling the transfer of technology, skills, and capital across borders. Economic growth and poverty reduction. Globalization has contributed to economic growth and poverty reduction in many developing countries. By integrating into the global economy, countries like China and India have lifted millions out of poverty and achieved substantial improvements in living standards. However, the benefits of globalization have not been evenly distributed, leading to significant disparities both within and between countries. Job creation and displacement. While globalization has created new job opportunities in sectors such as manufacturing, services, and technology, it has also led to job displacement in industries that are unable to compete with foreign competition. The offshoring of manufacturing jobs to countries with lower labor costs has been a contentious issue, particularly in developed economies. Cultural and social impacts. Cultural exchange and hybridization. Globalization has facilitated the exchange of cultural ideas and practices, leading to greater cultural diversity and the emergence of hybrid cultures. Music, food, fashion, and entertainment from different parts of the world are now accessible to global audiences, fostering cross-cultural understanding and appreciation. Homogenization and cultural imperialism. Critics argue that globalization can lead to cultural homogenization, where dominant cultures, particularly Western culture, overshadow and erode local traditions and identities. The spread of global brands, media, and consumer culture has raised concerns about cultural imperialism and the loss of cultural diversity. Migration and diaspora. Globalization has increased the movement of people across borders, leading to the growth of multicultural societies and diasporic communities. Migration has economic, social, and cultural implications, influencing labor markets, demographic trends, and cultural dynamics in both sending and receiving countries. Ongoing debates and challenges. Economic inequality. One of the most significant debates surrounding globalization is its impact on economic inequality. While globalization has driven economic growth, it has also contributed to widening income and wealth disparities. The benefits of globalization have often accrued to those with capital and skills, while workers in certain industries and regions have faced job losses and wage stagnation. Environmental concerns. Globalization has environmental implications, including increased resource consumption, pollution, and carbon emissions. The global supply chains and high levels of production associated with globalization contribute to environmental degradation and climate change. Addressing these issues requires coordinated international efforts and sustainable practices. Sovereignty and national identity. Globalization challenges traditional notions of sovereignty and national identity. The increased influence of international institutions, multinational corporations, and global governance structures can erode the autonomy of nation-states. This has fueled nationalist and protectionist movements that seek to reclaim control over national affairs. Global governance. The complexity of global issues such as trade, climate change, and migration requires effective global governance mechanisms. However, the existing institutions, such as the United Nations and the WTO, often face criticism for being inefficient, inequitable, or lacking enforcement power. Reforming global governance to address contemporary challenges is a pressing issue. Globalization has profoundly reshaped the world, bringing about economic growth, cultural exchange, and interconnectedness. However, it also presents significant challenges, including economic inequality, environmental degradation, and the erosion of national sovereignty. Navigating the complexities of globalization has a balanced approach that maximizes its benefits while addressing its adverse effects. As the world continues to evolve, the quest for sustainable and inclusive globalization remains a central challenge for policymakers, businesses, and societies worldwide. Chapter 14. The digital transformation of society. The digital transformation of society has fundamentally altered the way we live, work, and interact. This chapter delves into the origins, major developments, and far-reaching impacts of digital transformation, exploring how technology has reshaped various sectors and the challenges it presents. Digital transformation began with the advent of computers and the Internet, but its roots can be traced back to earlier technological advancements. The development of the microprocessor in the 1970s revolutionized computing, making it possible to create personal computers and, later, mobile devices. The Internet's evolution from a military communication network ARPANET in the late 1960s to a global information superhighway in the 1990s set the stage for widespread digital transformation. Major developments. The rise of the Internet. The commercialization of the Internet in the early 1990s marked a significant turning point. The launch of the World Wide Web, web browsers like Netscape, and search engines like Google revolutionized how information was accessed and shared. The Internet became a central platform for communication, commerce, and entertainment, leading to the creation of a global digital economy. The mobile revolution. The mobile revolution began in earnest with the introduction of smartphones, particularly the iPhone in 2007. Smartphones combined computing power with mobility, transforming how people access the Internet and digital services. The proliferation of mobile apps has created new industries and reshaped existing ones, from ride-sharing to mobile banking. Cloud computing. Cloud computing has been a cornerstone of digital transformation, enabling the storage and processing of data on remote servers accessible via the Internet. This technology has facilitated the rise of software as a service source, allowing businesses and individuals to access software applications without needing to install and maintain them locally. Companies like Amazon Web Services, AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud have become dominant players in this field. Big data and analytics. The ability to collect, store, and analyze vast amounts of data has transformed decision-making processes across various sectors. Big data analytics enables organizations to gain insights from complex data sets, improving efficiency, targeting marketing efforts, and driving innovation. Data-driven decision-making has become a critical competitive advantage in the digital age. Artificial intelligence and machine learning, artificial intelligence (AI), and machine learning (ML) have revolutionized numerous industries by enabling machines to learn from data and perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, from natural language processing and image recognition to autonomous vehicles and predictive analytics. AI and ML are driving significant advancements in technology and reshaping the future of work. Impacts on various sectors. Business and commerce. Digital transformation has reshaped the business landscape, leading to the rise of e-commerce and digital marketplaces. Companies like Amazon, Alibaba, and eBay have revolutionized retail, while digital payment systems like PayPal and mobile payment apps have changed how transactions are conducted. The gig economy, characterized by platforms like Uber and Airbnb, has also emerged, providing flexible work opportunities and new business models. Healthcare. Digital technology has transformed healthcare, improving patient care, diagnostics, and treatment. Electronic health records (EHRs) have streamlined patient information management, while telemedicine has expanded access to healthcare services. AI and big data analytics are being used to develop personalized medicine, enhance drug discovery, and predict disease outbreaks. Education. The education sector has undergone significant digital transformation, with online learning platforms like Coursera, Khan Academy, and edX providing access to educational resources and courses from prestigious institutions. The COVID-19 pandemic accelerated the adoption of digital learning tools, leading to widespread use of virtual classrooms, video conferencing, and digital collaboration tools. Entertainment and media. The entertainment and media industries have been transformed by digital technology, with streaming services like Netflix, Spotify, and YouTube reshaping how content is consumed. Social media platforms have become central to communication and content distribution, enabling creators to reach global audiences directly. The rise of digital media has also disrupted traditional journalism, leading to new models of news production and consumption. Government and public services. Digital transformation has impacted government and public services, improving efficiency, transparency, and citizen engagement. E-government initiatives have digitized public services, making them more accessible and user-friendly. Digital tools are being used to enhance public safety, manage infrastructure, and facilitate communication between governments and citizens. Challenges of digital transformation. Cybersecurity. The increasing reliance on digital technology has heightened the risk of cyber threats, including hacking, data breaches, and cyber warfare. Ensuring robust cybersecurity measures is critical to protect sensitive information, maintain trust, and secure digital infrastructure. Privacy concerns. The collection and use of personal data by companies and governments raise significant privacy concerns. Issues related to data protection, surveillance, and consent require careful regulation and ethical considerations to balance the benefits of digital technology with the protection of individual rights. Digital divide. The digital divide refers to the gap between those who have access to digital technology and the Internet and those who do not. This divide can exacerbate existing social and economic inequalities, making it essential to ensure equitable access to digital resources and opportunities. Workforce disruption. Digital transformation has disrupted traditional employment patterns, with automation and AI potentially displacing jobs in certain sectors. Preparing the workforce for the digital economy requires investment in education and training, as well as policies to support workers transitioning to new roles. Digital transformation is an ongoing process, with emerging technologies poised to drive further change. Innovations such as 5G networks, quantum computing, and the Internet of Things (IoT) will create new possibilities and challenges. The integration of AI into more aspects of society will continue to evolve, impacting various sectors and everyday life. The digital transformation of society has brought about profound changes, reshaping how we live, work, and interact. While the benefits of digital technology are significant, addressing the associated challenges is crucial to ensuring a balanced and inclusive digital future. As technology continues to advance, it is essential to foster innovation while promoting ethical considerations, privacy, security, and equitable access for all. Chapter 15. America in the 21st Century. As we delve into the 21st century, the United States faces a complex and evolving landscape, shaped by technological advancements, social changes, and global challenges. This chapter explores key themes and issues that define America in this era, including technological innovation, demographic shifts, political polarization, economic trends, and global influence. Technological innovation. The digital revolution. The 21st century has seen a continuation and acceleration of the digital revolution. Advances in information technology, artificial intelligence, and biotechnology are transforming industries, creating new opportunities and reshaping everyday life. Innovations such as the Internet of Things (IoT), 5G connectivity, and quantum computing promise to drive further change, influencing how people live, work, and interact. Automation and AI. Automation and artificial intelligence (AI) at the forefront of technological change, impacting various sectors from manufacturing to healthcare. While these technologies offer potential for increased efficiency and new capabilities, they also raise concerns about job displacement and the future of work. Addressing these challenges requires strategic policies focused on education, retraining, and workforce adaptation. Demographic shifts. Aging population. America is experiencing significant demographic shifts, with an aging population being one of the most notable trends. The increasing number of older adults presents challenges and opportunities in areas such as healthcare, retirement planning, and social services. Adapting to this demographic change has a focus on sustainable healthcare systems and supportive infrastructure for older adults. Increasing diversity. The United States is becoming more diverse, with growing racial and ethnic minority populations. This increasing diversity enriches the cultural fabric of the nation and presents opportunities for economic growth and innovation. However, it also necessitates addressing issues related to racial equity, social inclusion, and the protection of minority rights. Political polarization. Partisan divides. Political polarization has become a defining feature of American politics in the 21st century. The growing divide between political parties and ideological factions has led to gridlock in governance and a fragmented public discourse. Finding common ground and fostering bipartisan cooperation is essential for addressing the nation's pressing issues and maintaining democratic stability. Social movements. The rise of social movements advocating for various causes, from racial justice to climate action, reflects the dynamic nature of American society. These movements play a crucial role in raising awareness, influencing policy, and driving social change. Engaging with these movements and addressing their concerns is vital for fostering a more inclusive and equitable society. Economic trends. The knowledge economy. The shift towards a knowledge-based economy, characterized by the increasing importance of information, technology, and innovation, is reshaping the American economic landscape. Investing in education, research, and development is critical to maintaining competitiveness and ensuring sustainable economic growth. Income inequality. Income inequality remains a significant challenge, with disparities in wealth and opportunity continuing to widen. Addressing economic inequality requires comprehensive policies focused on education, labor rights, taxation, and social welfare. Ensuring that economic growth benefits all segments of society is crucial for social cohesion and long-term prosperity. Global influence, diplomatic leadership. As a global superpower, the United States plays a pivotal role in international affairs. Diplomatic leadership and engagement in global institutions are essential for addressing transnational challenges such as climate change, pandemics, and security threats. Strengthening alliances and promoting multilateral cooperation are key to maintaining global stability and advancing American interests. Economic partnerships, globalization, and international trade remain central to the American economy. Building and maintaining strong economic partnerships with other nations are vital for economic growth and stability. Navigating the complexities of international trade agreements and fostering fair trade practices are ongoing priorities. Challenges and opportunities. Climate change. Climate change poses one of the most significant challenges of the 21st century. Addressing this issue requires concerted efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, transition to renewable energy sources, and implement sustainable practices across all sectors. The United States has a crucial role to play in global climate initiatives and must lead by example, mitigating environmental impact. Technological ethics. The rapid pace of technological advancement raises important ethical considerations. Issues related to data privacy, AI ethics, and the societal impacts of emerging technologies must be carefully navigated. Establishing ethical frameworks and regulations that balance innovation with public interest is essential for responsible technological development. As America moves further into the 21st century, it faces a dynamic and multifaceted landscape. Technological innovation, demographic changes, political polarization, economic trends, and global challenges shape the nation's trajectory. Navigating these complexities requires thoughtful leadership, inclusive policies, and a commitment to justice and equity. By embracing its diversity, fostering innovation, and engaging constructively with global partners, the United States can continue to thrive and lead in this new era. The ongoing pursuit of the American dream, characterized by the principles of freedom, opportunity, and democracy, remains a guiding light for the nation's future. Thanks for watching.